Well, Paul also writes to the Romans, and we can recognize some similar themes in what he tells the Romans. It is very much like what he said to the Philippians, and he wrote that from a Roman prison. Now, as he writes to the people in Rome, trying to tell them about Christianity, when we get to chapter 12, here's what he says. For by the grace given to me, I say to everyone among you not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think with sober judgment, each according to the measure of faith that God has assigned. For as in one body we have many members, and the members do not all have the same function, so we, though many, are one body in Christ, and individually members one of another. Having gifts that differ according to the grace given to us, let us use them, if prophecy in proportion to our faith, if service in our serving, the one who teaches in his teaching, the one who exhorts in his exhortation, the one who contributes in generosity, the one who leads with zeal, and the one who does acts of mercy with cheerfulness. And so we can recognize some of the themes that he's giving us here. He says, don't think of yourself too highly. In other words, put other people ahead of you. They are the ones who are more important. So don't think of yourself as being first. Think with sober judgment. Think according to the measure of the faith that God has assigned you. We think sometimes it's up to us to believe, and it's our belief, and we have come up with it on our own. And he really says here, you didn't even come up with your faith on your own. You don't even believe on your own, but God is the one who gives you enough faith for you to be able to believe. It's really not about us. It's not about how important we are, what great people of faith we are. It's whether or not we respond to the faith that God has given to us. And so he says, we're one body, many members. We don't function alike. And he points to the fact that there are different gifts that are given. Now, we're individually members one of another. Interesting way to say that. We're individually a group. Does that make sense? Individually a group. It means we're going to maintain our individuality and the difference of who we are, but we're bonded with the other people and we become part of this group. And so this group is this group of Christians that we have together. And so we have gifts that differ because grace is different for each person. And God's grace, he has given us all different things that we can use. And so some have prophecy, some have service, some have teaching, some are able to encourage and uplift, some are able to have money and contribute, some are able to lead, some are able to show mercy on someone. When the rest of us don't look on them with mercy, we think they look pitiful. But that person who can really have genuine mercy and go to them and share that compassion with them, that's a gift. It's a very important gift because some of the rest of us have a difficult time in showing that. And so each one of these is so different from the other. And yet we need all of these gifts. And when we look at the list of gifts, we realize that these gifts are not for us. They were given for other people. And so as you look down the list of gifts, service is not to serve ourselves. Teaching is not to teach ourselves. Or giving is, well, this is great. I'll give to myself. All of these gifts are for what we would do with other people. So the one who leads is the one who leads others. The one who shows mercy is not just merciful toward himself, but also merciful toward others. And so the gifts God gives us are for other people. That's an important thing for us to remember. So therefore, we need to be around other people just to use the gifts that God has given to us. We can't just keep to ourselves because they weren't given for us. And where we are around other people and we are able to serve and teach and exhort and give and lead and show mercy, it makes the whole group so much better. And then starting in verse 9, he says this: let love be genuine, abhor what is evil, hold fast to what is good. Love one another with brotherly affection, outdo one another in showing honor. Do not be slothful in zeal. Be fervent in spirit, serve the Lord, rejoicing in hope, be patient in tribulation, be constant in prayer, contribute to the needs of the saints, and seek to show hospitality. Bless those who persecute you, bless and do not curse them. Rejoice with those who rejoice, weep with those who weep. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be haughty, but associate with the lowly. Never be wise in your own sight. Never think you're the smartest guy in the room. He says, don't lift yourself up. We're back to the same theme again. But this one is on a much more practical level. Not only do we have different gifts of grace that God has given to us, now he says, here's what I want you to do with all of those. And so here's what it looks like in real time in our life. Love is genuine. It's not fake. We all remember times when it looks like, well, somebody is really interested in us. And they are just so infatuated with us, and they think we're the greatest person ever until we don't buy their product, and then they have nothing to do with us. It was all just to be able for us to buy whatever they were selling. And then he says, abhor what's evil, hold on to what's good. You're going to do that when you recognize the good things and promote the good things. And you're also going to recognize the bad things. Love one another with brotherly affection. There's some emotion attached in this one, right? And so outdo one another in showing honor. In other words, we're honoring somebody else, not honoring ourselves. Don't be slothful in zeal, but do great at zeal. Be fervent in spirit. Serve the Lord. Rejoice in hope. Each one of these things is something positive that we're going to do. And all of these things are emotional things. Don't be lazy with your zeal. Fervent in spirit means we really feel it, we really believe it, and we really understand it. Serve the Lord like that. Rejoice in hope. How do you rejoice? Yay. No, it's got to be more than that. It's got to be a lot more than that. Be constant in prayer, contributing to the needs of the saints. And he says all of these things are very emotional things. Do them in a way that makes it emotional in your life, because these are emotional bonds that bring us together. And so he talks about these things like brotherly affection and zeal and fervency and rejoicing and contributing and love being genuine, because all of those things have some feeling attached with it. All of those things are working together. And then he comes to even some more and saying, rejoice with the ones who rejoice. Not because you have something to rejoice about, but because they have something to rejoice. And at the same time, you're going to weep with the ones who weep. I just got done rejoicing. I know, but they're more important. And so weep with the ones who are sad now. But live in harmony with everybody. Don't put yourself first. Associate with the lowly. You're not the smartest person in the room. Be able to realize what other people have and what God has given, and how he has given all of this to fit together. And these things do draw us together in this emotional bond in Christ. And so he says, be devoted to one another in brotherly love. Honor one another above yourself. How do we do that? Well, we'll say, well, I like him. You know, he's a good guy. I think it's interesting the way people respond to compliments, to things that we would say about them that are good. Most people don't get near enough. It's just one of those things in our world, and it changes the way people respond back to you if you say something nice first, if you give them a compliment first. We see this, we understand this, we know this. And so he says, do this to somebody else first. And so we'll do it so that we can get them to pay attention to us and to give us what we want. We'll be nice to them first, and then that means they'll be nice back to us. No, that's manipulation. That's really not this. This is something else. This is when you feel like you share something with someone. And so there is all of this awe and wonder around you, and you're able to express and talk about this awe and wonder that you feel at times when you're just completely overwhelmed. There's all these good things that are going on around, and that you can see God doing, and you're able to talk about all of those great things. And you're able to tell the person that you see great things in them, and you see how wonderful they are. It gets to be a bit too much, and then people don't believe it, and they don't want to see it, and they don't like it, and it doesn't really work because it's just too much. It's just overload. And then we just get suspicious. So how do we do it if we can't just, be honest and just heap all kinds of praise on them? Well, it's being there in the times when they need us, the times when they rejoice and the times when they weep, the times when they work, the times when they're lifted up. So when you decide to honor someone, how would you do this? If you can't give them too much, then just give them one line a day. That's all. Every time you see them, you're going to say something positive to them. Something that's wonderful, something that's great about them, something that you appreciate. Every single time you run into them, you're going to see and say something great about them. I don't know if you realize what effect that has on people, but most of us are beat down so much and have so much from the world that says we are unworthy, we're not worthwhile, we don't do a good job, we have things that get in the way, that we just have a hard time believing in anything good about ourselves. And so when someone tells us that we're doing a good job, our first thing is to say, well, no, we're not. We discount it. We ignore it. And so we dismiss it as not even being true. But if that happens every single day, you know what happens to the person? They start believing it. And they start feeling some confidence. Because obviously we think they're great. We think they're wonderful because we say it. And we say it every single time we see them. Every single day. And it's not a big thing and it's not over the top. It's just, I appreciate you. I think you do this very well. And it's just what we would do. And it changes how they feel about themselves. It changes how they feel about us. It changes how they see God, because the world is no longer a terrible, awful place that sin has taken over. There is a light, an array of hope in it, and that somebody really sees them and believes in them. And it's one of those things that changes people. Just try it. Pick someone. Pick a few people. And just say something good to them every single time you see them. Doesn't have to be the first thing, but just think, I'm going to say something good to them. I saw this, not necessarily a Bible quote, but it says, we cannot win the battle to save species and environments without forging an emotional bond between ourselves and nature as well, for we will not fight to save what we do not love. We will not fight to save what we do not love. We will not fight to save people when we do not love, because it doesn't matter. And yet people who are just into the environment and trying to help the environment will fight like crazy because they have fallen in love with nature. And that's what he's trying to say here. It's part of what God has given us. It's a way that we're able to be. We can recognize there are times of emotion. There are times when we love like this. And we need to learn to use those things. What happens when you win? Well, you celebrate, right? I mean, that's a good-sized trophy. They've won something. They've won something really great. And they are so happy and they are so excited. They're number one. And they recognize. Now, how do they feel about each other? They feel great about each other because it took all of them together as a team to be able to win. And so it's an amazing thing. And if you've been on a winning team, you recognize the bond that's there and how much you trust each other and how much you believe in each other and the way in which we have so many of these things that we're able to do with each other because we have invested emotionally in them. And it is part of the winning process that we feel with them, for them. We function together. And there is emotion in the fact that we're going to do anything we can to be able to win. It doesn't matter what the game is. We're going to have some emotion about it. And it will be something that we do to win. If we can do that with just a sporting event, then why can't we do that with Jesus? When we work together to be able to see that something great happens, I think we recognize that we do. I've not seen sad people at a baptism. And it really doesn't matter what part of the country we're in or what's going on around them. When you see someone who has just been baptized, they are excited and they are happy. And all of the people around them are happy. And what they've done is come confessing all of their sins and the mistakes that they've made and how terrible and awful they are. That usually doesn't make for rejoicing, does it? But it's a recognition that Jesus is able to raise them up and Jesus is able to exalt. And this expression of greatest joy is from the fact that they realize their mistakes and they confess Jesus, and the rest of us lift them up. And the rest of us are so excited for this new birth. We're so excited for what God is able to do in that person's life. And it is an emotional response when you have a baptism into Christ. If you can go through a baptism and not have any emotion about it, there is something desperately wrong. It is important that we recognize this because every single person who is saved is going to be someone we love. We don't care about them. We're not going to be rejoicing. And so when we think about God and about what God does and what builds us up, one of the things that builds us up is the things we do together. It's the high moments when a person is baptized into Christ. It's the times when we work together, the times when we use our gifts, the times when we're working out our own salvation, the times when we would put somebody else first before us and lift them up, and then all of a sudden God has exalted us. And we didn't intend for that to happen. We didn't even know it was going to happen, but somehow in our process of putting everybody else before us, telling them good things about themselves so that they will believe, all of a sudden it happens to us. And it's almost a shock. And we're so surprised in this. It's what it takes to build up each other. And what a great thing it is, and how exciting it is to be able to build each other up in the Lord, because He is to will and to work for His good pleasure as we just do the things that He wants. What an exciting thing to happen. We're filled with awe and wonder at all that God does around us.